gracious Heavenly Father, we come to you this morning and we thank you. Our hearts are rejoiceful that you have woken us up and that you've brought us to this class and given us this opportunity to study thy word and thy truth. And Father, as we study this last day before the prophecy school, I ask that you send your Holy Spirit and power to help us to resolve any kind of issues in our minds, and especially those who will be speaking, Lord. I ask that you will give them an extra portion of thy Spirit, that they might understand, that they can make the connections clearly and speak your truth to the people. Thank you, Lord, for all of your blessings. In Jesus' name, amen.
Okay, we've been dealing with the binding off. Ezra 7:9. And what we're looking at, the problem, is Revelation 9, where we have 2 4-year periods established here and here. So initially, when we looked at these 4-year periods, this would be in Revelation 9. This is a 4 and a 4. We saw this is the history of the 6th trumpet. And we've seen at the beginning and the end of 4 years. So we've seen a binding off in the history of the Levites and a binding off in the history of the priests. But I'm understanding upon several witnesses that this is a fractal of this. Therefore, the characteristics that are in this are going to have to be exhibited in this. And therefore, this 4 is here. But what's the justification for making this big change in the presentation after so long? And this is initially the dilemma that Mark argued when we were first seeing this open up. Is it because time would be no longer? I don't know if he used this logic, but you wouldn't have the 380. What is it? Take 8 from 391. 383 years. You wouldn't have 383 years in here.
If the little mark before the midnight cry is 1449, and the midnight cry is 1840, because we know 1840 to 44 is parallel to 1449 to 1453, then the 391 years and 15 days is from the little mark before the midnight cry to the midnight cry.
That's right.
And no space is taken away.
Yeah.
We still have the same structure.
Yeah. That's what we said yesterday.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about.
I didn't understand what you said.
It's what we said yesterday. And
yeah, but I didn't understand it. What did we say yesterday that he just repeated?
sorry.
1449 marks right before the midnight cry, and 1840 is 391 years and 15 days later at the midnight cry.
Yeah. The number 4 is the 4 points of time, the hour, a day, a month, and a year.
And then from 1840 to 44 would be.
So you're not losing any spaces.
There's no space retained. Loss. Everything's still retained. If you mark at midnight cry as 1840, then you have that number 4 as an illustration of 391 years and 15 days. That is the binding off.
Yeah.
The whole prophecy of the 6th angel sounding, the 2nd woe, is the binding off.
And you can, the one that Tyler saw before 1840, the 10 days, you can bring and put right there, and it lands right on 1840.
What does that mean?
You know, before 1840, you have 1838, and then it led up to 10 days before for the prediction. So we understand that through Smyrna, that 9/11 to midnight is 40 days. 9/11 to midnight is Smyrna, but the last 10 years was marking that binding off period. So it gave us a number 10 there, and we have 10 days before 1840. So there you have a second witness. Now when you put that 10 there, it also lands on 1840, so you've got two witnesses for 1840 being the midnight cry.
Yeah.
And the glorious manifestation of the power of God now, from 1840 to 1844, is marking the time period of the midnight cry.
So, everyone following that?
Nope,
Who said no?
I did,
Why not?
because I'm not following it,
No, which bit did you?
the whole thing.
So, on this line here, this is 1849 to 1853. Everyone knows that.
1449.
1449 to 1453.
Yeah, it's just a fractal.
Right? Everyone understand that. This is
Yeah.
that 4-year period.
Yeah.
And they're saying, Michael and Mark, is that this 4-year period down here, if we pull it out, then this is 1840 to 1844.
Yeah.
Okay, and then the 300 and
And why are we pulling out, and what's our justification?
387 years that would have been in here, but time is no longer, so we're not really threatened by that time. And in 1449, the command is loose the 4 angels that have been prepared for an hour, a month, a day, and a year. That's the 4 here. The 4 is represented by these 4 terms of time: hour, day, month, and year in our history, because time is no longer. These 4 symbols are marking this 4. But in the Millerite history, those 4 symbols possessed a numerical value that added up to 391 years and 15 days. So in our history, when time is no longer, it's not expressing time, it's just expressing the number 4. And that time would take you to 1840, so it's placing the 1840 here. We already have the 1840 here also, and 44 here
Yeah.
at
So
a different level.
That would stay the same.
But this is their logic. I don't have a problem with it. Allows for the number 4, the symbol, to be represented by the hour, month, day, and a year, which is 391 years and 15 days.
You've got
It puts
4
it right
angels
there.
being loosed as well. You've got 4 horns. at the
4
altar.
years. You know, that would still be the 1449 to
Yeah.
1453.
Yeah, so you've got several 4s there.
You got that? Now my argument is similar, but it's different. And it may take some memory jogging for all of us, but it's not that hard. 9/11 is the beginning of the 40 years of wandering in the wilderness that takes us to Jericho, which Sister White marks as the Sunday law. And this is the 40 years of wandering in the wilderness, right? And at the midnight cry, you can also show the 40 years of wandering in the wilderness, right? Because this is a fractal of this. And this, Moses is going to die right before they go into the promised land. I'm giving you now a second argument from this line. And how old was Moses?
120.
He was 120 years old from,
So that's the big fractal.
that's marking this history. But down here we have a 120, which is the Ezra 7:9. So you've got 2 witnesses right there. All I'm doing is emphasizing the principle of the fractals. You've got 2 witnesses just with the 40 and the 120, that this is the big portion that's illustrated by this smaller portion. Therefore, upon the testimony of 2, this big portion has to illustrate this portion. And what we weren't seeing that wasn't allowing us to, well, who knows, but what wasn't allowing us to mark this right from the beginning, at least for me, what the logic that came on was the distinction between the church militant and the church triumphant. different types of judgment.
I see how you're marking the hour, the day, the month, and the year as the 4, but based on how we've been lining things up, don't we then need to find another trumpet that is represented by its prophetic numbering that represents, I mean, that's the only one we're pulling out of the trumpet, that its prophecy, 391 years, 15 days, is represents 4. Don't we need to see another trumpet that's doing that same thing in this line to be able to say that that's true?
I don't know what you're
I
talking
can't
about.
enunciate it.
I think I understand what she's
That's scary. Go ahead.
I think I understand what you're saying, Bronwyn. But what I
No,
was,
well, explain to us what
Yeah.
she's saying before you.
well, I just want to answer it. And
Well, explain it first so we know what you're
No, I'm
answering.
saying that
She's
you're
saying-
saying 391 years and 15 days, that prophetic time period is now 4.
There is another
So
one.
I want to see another trumpet, at least one other one, that its prophetic period represents a 7
There
or.
is another one.
my answer, hold on, I just want to put this in real quick. That I still see that period is 391 years and 15 days. The binding
We're
off
still
is
maintaining that.
391
Okay, that's
years
the
and 15
first
days.
level.
Why?
We're still recognizing
Not
Revelation
just that it's a
9.
number 4, but it is 391 years and 15 days
You don't-
as a
Revelation
symbol.
9.
Just like the 150, it's the same thing. It's just the numbers don't have to be proportionate to the amount of space.
I don't think you need to even do that.
I'm just saying it doesn't go away.
You don't have to change it any time. It's just a number 4. But and
I didn't
to
change it
answer
at the time.
to answer Bronwyn's
Nobody
question,
changes it, so.
from 9/11 to midnight, the first war was 150 years, but it's not. It's 5 months, and when we read it today at the end of time, we're just reading it as a symbol. It says 5 months, and we're lining it up with the 5 months of Elizabeth. We're not lining it up with
But that's a
150
5.
years.
That's a 5 and 5 months. Those are both talking about years or days. You're taking 391 years and
No.
15 days and turning it into a symbol
No,
4.
no.
Nobody's doing
No,
it. That's what it
There's an
is.
hour, a day, a month, a year. They're all symbols of time, right? And they're just going. There's 4 of them there, and there's 5 months, and there's 5 months there. So you're not changing.
They're different.
You're not changing the 5 months into 150 years, and you're not changing the hour, a day, and a month, a year into 391 years.
I'm
and
not
15.
saying that. But what you're saying is different. You've got apples and oranges. You've got 150 and 5 months. Those are both periods of time. 391 years and 15 days is a period of time, but the 4 is not a period of time. It's a symbol.
It is a period of time. It's from midnight to the midnight cry.
What I was saying is that you don't have.
No, it's not. No, it's not.
No, what I'm saying is there's still a time element.
Yeah,
there.
I
But
don't
it's
need
not
to
a
say
period
time
of
element.
time. It's a number 4. And she may, her argument may not be
Testimony
valid
too.
about what the number 4 is not a period of time. Well, I don't. Explain to me then. Start with. You're bringing the arguments against is okay, but bring the arguments against this.
No, I don't want to argue against. I just want to see that if after we lay this out and then we lay Revelation 9 out with the way we've previously been laying it out, and now we're taking it a step further. Now we're finding a 4 in that, and we're laying that out.
No.
Where's the
I
other
don't think that's what we're
representation?
doing.
Okay,
I don't think that's what we're doing.
Bron-
We're saying that from 9/11 to the Sunday law is a period of time that there's a fractal from 9/11 to the midnight cry
I
that's
agree.
been the only way you can resolve that is what we're doing.
I agree. But to take an
So
hour a
this
day, a
here-
month, a year.
This here is what is proving it. That time is no longer an hour, a day, a month, and a year in our history at the end of the world cannot be a period of time. So it's got to be something else.
It's a
well,
number 4.
it's a number 4.
So where's
It's a symbol.
another? Where's the 150 days or the 5 months? What number does that? What's that represented by? That isn't related to its actual time. Is that represented by a number
It was
18? Say, you know what I'm saying?
It was turned into 150 years, but now you're not doing that. You're retaining it as days. That's what it was.
What's the symbol for the 150 years?
5 months.
No, that 5 months is 150 years.
No, 5 months is 150 days. But when you change it from a day to a year, but you're not doing that anymore, so it just retains the 5 months. Just like what they're doing. They're an hour a day, a month a year. They're not being changed.
Bronwyn, literally nothing changes except we're moving to the left.
I
You
know.
still have that space though. You still have
That's my point.
the 391 days and 15 or years and 15 days. Nothing changes
Yes.
in terms of that. It's just the beginning or the end is shifted to the left instead of being over to the right.
The number 4.
Based on what it's shown.
The number 4.
That's the difference.
I don't know how to
391.
justify doing that.
391 and 15 is synonymous with the number 4. So you can, if it makes you feel better, write 150 and 391, and it's the same thing as writing 5 and 4. That's what I'm saying. Is that it's still a period, and you don't have to turn it into a number 4, or you don't have to mark that. Although it is significant because it's marking the symbol, but you can retain the space because we know that the binding off is both a point and a period. So it retains the fact that there's a beginning and an ending of this space of 391 and 15 prophetic space. You know, I don't know what else to call it, but it's not time, and and it's not. It's still space.
So everybody else must understand.
No,
something
but
and
not, these guys don't even understand it yet. It's not settled in for anyone. This is, you get this part, right?
1453. Don't you think it would be fair for the people that aren't familiar with Revelation 9 to actually lay out how we've been laying out Revelation 9 so they can consider what we're talking about? I can bet a bunch
Well,
of people
yeah,
here-
I think that would be fair, but I would think Revelation 9 in this class has been laid out on the board at least 15 times. So this is 1453, right? Midnight?
1449.
1449?
Yep.
1453.
Yep.
But if you take this little period down here, the other 4 years, and bring it into here,
It's 1840 and 1844.
why can you do that?
Because the binding offs are.
I know.
It's 4 years.
Alpha and the Omega.
The Alpha and the Omega.
doesn't
Because this is the
yeah.
sixth trumpet. At the beginning and the end, it's got 4 years.
Okay.
So this is 1840 to 1844, right?
But you're not
Yeah.
leaving that little period there before the Sunday law anymore, right? You're bringing that back.
Yeah, I'm bringing it back. I'm just showing her that the 4 is established as a waymark initially
trumpet.
up on the beginning and the ending in the 6th trumpet.
Sixth trumpet has a symbol of 4 with it.
Yeah, at the beginning and the ending, and what is it? It's the binding off period. It takes more information than that. So what you're saying is, from 1449, there are 4 angels that are prepared for an hour, a month, a day, and a year, right?
An hour, a day, a month, and a year.
Okay, when are they loosed?
Midnight.
1453.
1449, sorry.
They're loosed right here.
Loose restraint.
They're loosed in 1449 for 390. So when they're loosed, what begins?
The
The
wall.
second wall.
The second wall.
The sixth.
Yeah, but
Sixth trumpet.
what period of time begins?
391
Day,
years
a
and
month,
15
a year.
days.
It begins right here.
Yeah.
From here to here.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
Yeah.
What are you saying?
This is, you need to follow this.
391 years, 15 days.
And
15
1449, they are loosed. Okay, this 1449 to 1453 is a period in that history that is marking a different symbol, but the loosening begins right here.
But you're constraining that loosening into a 4-year time period because the sixth trumpet represents is 4.
Yeah, because
You already have 4 there by the end and the beginning.
so it's loosed in 1449.
Mm-hmm.
Is it restrained in 1453?
No.
It's restrained in 1844.
Wouldn't it be 1840?
1840.
Put 1840 up there because that's what we'd be doing.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's my struggle. That
And
right
well,
there.
put August 1st
I
August
know it's
1st
a point
above
of period,
midnight.
so you don't say that to me.
August
Oh, I
1st
was-
above midnight, and that's your 10 days. Yeah, there you go.
And yeah,
So that's why we're able to put 1840 there because
Okay.
August 1st to August 11th is 10 days, and that is the binding off. So therefore 1840s marked the midnight cry, and Mark brought in another witness. So now we see 1449 to 1840 is that
Because it's a binding off, we're allowed to use August 1st to August 11th. Based on that, we're
Yeah.
allowed to put those symbols up there.
Yep.
This also gives us another
But
witness.
there's other tens.
But what I was getting to, but you never got it. Is there a restraint here?
On August 11th, 1840?
Yes, there is a decree that I never remember that Marco Barrios found online and contributed to this class in 1844. It's something like not a decree, but some term for a law of restraint.
Against Christians.
Edict of Toleration.
The Edict of Toleration, something like that,
Yeah.
was passed in 1844 for what? It brought an end of persecution against Christians by Islam in 1844. So there's a loosening and a restraint here. But this would be July 21st and August 15th. But that's basically the whole argument. I mean, you can elaborate on it, but my argument is I agree with what they're saying about this here bringing the 391 years back over here. So it comes to here when it's represented as a number 4. But the first argument is all the fractals. These histories that have like a 120 from here to here and a 120 here and a 40 and a 40 are proving that this history here is illustrating, or this history.
Yeah.
And to include this down here would demand that you include something down here. This is where we were struggling initially with the 10 down here, and it was what really, I guess, now that you look back on it, locked in this understanding that this don't belong here, is this number 10 when we realize where it fits.
I thought we agreed it did belong there because there's a 3-step testing message within there.
What do you mean?
And then the third step is separate, making that little tiny period. When we were first considering that, I thought we did agree that we just can't see that small yet.
No, that would make it the everlasting gospel. And
Yeah.
but it's not.
It's
That's
not.
what it was presented.
What we had understood
Maybe
before,
a long time ago.
we understood before that 9/11 to the Midnight Cry was identical to the Midnight Cry to the Sunday Law, but the symbols don't say that. It says 120 and 70, 12 and 7. All the symbols show differences between the two periods. So there's some, we've from the beginning we've had the logic to say that the testing process from 9/11 to the Midnight Cry is somehow differentiated between the testing process that happens in Midnight Cry to the Sunday Law.
So, are you following this? Who isn't? Is Brahman the only one? If Jack isn't? Paul isn't? What parts aren't you following? You're following. I don't know if I want to go back into the number 10 in 1838 and 40, but we were struggling with that. But now we see the number 10 is in here.
Sister White has a statement. She has 2 statements. One, she says that the midnight cry began to go forth at midnight. And another statement, she says that the second angel's message was empowered at near the end of the tarrying time. And so the midnight cry, how we draw it all the time, we draw it directly in between 9/11 and Sunday Law.
Yeah, but the
But-
first part's years and the second part's months, so that's near the end.
So we draw it in the middle, and we should actually draw it closer to the Sunday Law, which would more accurately represent exactly what you're saying. That 9/11 to the Sunday Law is the tarrying time, and the midnight cry is the little binding off. Midnight cry to the Sunday Law is the binding off before the end. It's the relatively small period. And Sister White confirms this with her statements. So if we drew it that way, it might be easier for people to visually grapple with.
I don't know if that's important. What do you want to say, Brahman?
I mean, I heard him say that the first portion is years, the second portion is months. Is that based on they'll learn in months, so it took us years to learn?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're taking that even though we know time is no longer and labeling.
How
those
long was
periods.
the history of the Midnight Cry in the Millerite movement?
August 15.
Less than 2 months.
Oh,
The time is no longer.
We still
From
don't know how long
Exodus.
it's
Time
going to
is
be.
no longer.
Months
No, but
doesn't tell us.
if we were to draw the line of the Millerites, which kind of dictates what's going to happen in ours, and if we were to apply it according to what they had it, it would make more sense. Because in the Miller
Yeah.
time application was applicable, but to us it's not.
It's not.
so in their time, it locks it in the structure,
Yes.
and then you just keep that structure regardless of time.
We should never forget the pattern that we're following, because I think sometimes that we're getting into so much detail that we forget the big picture.
Yeah, I think the throughout this development of truth, I know I am the one that more often than not brings in the argument. Haven't been doing it recently, but we did it for a while, that we were making mistakes because we were focusing on the little fractal from 9/11 to the Midnight Cry without taking into consideration what's being taught from 9/11 to the Sunday Law, the big picture. So we've been struggling with our inability to make sure that the fractal squares up with the big picture. But now we're pretty much settled into that, I guess, that we're past that obstacle. So what was any other observations? I forgot where I was going to go with this, but I did want to go next step, but
I wanted to
pardon me.
bring a point from
Does that bother you?
No.
It sometimes bothers
No,
me when I
it
see
bothers
people
me.
do a line, a really poor line up here and then straight across, and I'm thinking, straighten that out. What?
Yesterday, Brother Mark was asking Michael, what justification do we have to put a 30 past instead of forward? And what I came across yesterday, maybe most of you know, that a priest, when he starts his work in the sanctuary, he had to be 30 years old, and he was to work until he was 50, it was a 20-year. So the 30 years, or the number 30, it basically belongs with the priest, not with the Levites. The Levites would start at 25 and work for 25 years till they were 50. I don't know if that brings a justification for us to put it in the past instead of in the future.
Yeah, but what's that got to do with the Levites?
Now with the Levites, I'm talking that number 30 represents more the priest, not the Levites. And if we were to put it after the Midnight Cry, it would definitely fall into the Levites category, not into the priest.
Oh, we haven't put it after the Midnight Cry. I don't know why. That's what I'm saying. I don't know why you're saying that.
What Esther with the Book of Esther?
Yeah, we're not putting it after the Midnight Cry. We're putting it in the binding off period.
Yeah, but
So the binding off period, which do you do before Midnight Cry or after Midnight Cry?
1989, 9/11, midnight,
Yep.
30 days, Midnight Cry.
But the fractal denotes there is a 30 after the Midnight Cries also.
The fractal denotes that there is a 30 after the Midnight Cry.
Yeah, I remember we did a lot of 30s, didn't we? We went to numbers 11. So we realised that that's marking a 30 from Midnight Cry to Sunday Law, but it's not 30 years, it's just a number 30.
Oh yeah, just a number 30.
Yeah, so there's one in the small fractal there, and there's one in the larger fractal.
Yeah, which is my primary argument, is that this big picture
Yeah.
should illustrate this. So the fact that we see a big 30 here corresponds to that.
What's the big 30 there?
From numbers 11, I think we
But what is it?
Well,
It's the
that's
binding
1
off.
month, 30
It's
days.
just
From what story though? Where are we
Numbers
doing?
11.
well, what 30
Yeah, that's a chapter,
You
and
found
a,
30 days, the
Oh, you
more
want-
for
yeah.
Aaron.
We want
I
the
wanna
story.
hear
It's
more
about
for-
they
Moses
eat
did
quail
that.
for a whole month.
Yeah, you've got lots of 30 actually, you know, they're more
There's
for
lots,
Moses
there's
30
lots of
day.
them.
what are you were implying the 30 should all go in the priests, and now you're agreeing that there's lots
No,
of 30s
but
in the
they are.
Levites too.
They are,
Well,
but
there
I-
are, so why'd you bring it up if you knew that?
But I was pointing out for the priest that I found it interesting that 30 years is required for them before they can begin their ministry.
Yeah, I agree. All right, so everyone settled on that? Here's the key to me, is this is the church militant. And the separation, the everlasting gospel that's going on here is going on between wheat and tares. Okay, there's going to be an everlasting gospel in here. But here the church is militant, and here onward the church is triumphant. So the Levites are going to be coming in and standing with the priests progressively. Did I ever answer your question?
What was my
Or
question?
respond? No, Paul had his hand up for a while.
I just write it down and look at all of it. Go
What
ahead.
was it?
Oh, I just was wondering when the tarrying time started and when it stopped, according to the Spirit prophecy.
Starting the
Look
first
that
day of the
up
first, she says it starts at the first day of the first month and it ends the 10th day of the 7th month. It's 6 months and 10 days is the full length.
And later, though, she says we're in the tarrying time.
Yes, and that's true because
So
she
how
also
long
says
does
it's
it
from
go? Does
18.
it go till the close of probation?
No, it depends which history you're talking about. Millerite history, it ends at October 22nd, 1844. But then she says the parable of
Why?
the virgins is
Why does it end on October 22nd, 1844?
because that's when they enter into the bride,
What were they, when they were tarrying, what were they waiting for?
the bridegroom.
They're waiting for the marriage to take place right there.
But what she also says is that the parable of the 10 virgins is an illustration of all the professed Christian world. And she says that Christ tarries for the world that they might receive the third angel's message. So another tarrying time begins on October 22nd, 1844, and it ends for the Gentiles, and it ends at the close of probation. So from 1844 to the close of probation, that is the biggest representation of the tarrying time of the end of the world.
Okay.
So what you're saying is that when you've read statements, it seems that we're in the tarrying time. Well, we are, and we have been since the 22nd of October. But that's on a different level of thought than we're dealing with on the Millerite reform compared to our reform.
So how many tarrying times are there primarily that we're looking at? Three.
Yeah.
What are the three? Don't answer.
What are the three?
Yeah. There's a tarrying time in the Millerite history, right?
Millerites.
Then there's a tarrying
Gentiles.
time for the Gentiles that begins there. But then
Us.
us, 9/11.
Yeah.
So you have, by context, to determine what she's mentioning or the Bible's mentioning in a tarrying time. So church triumphant begins here.
And where do we get the tarrying time for our time?
Right here, 9/11, because 9/11 is the first day of the first month, and that is April 19th, 1844, which is the beginning of the tarrying time in the Millerite history. 9/11 is April 19th, 1844, which is the first day of the first month, prophetically. That's when the tarrying time begins. Yes?
Yeah.
9 testimonies, 11. Mark's it right down.
So 9/11 prefigures 419 or 419 prefigures 9/11?
419 prefigures 9/11.
419
What does prefigure mean?
Comes first.
before.
So which comes first?
419.
No, Ezra 7:9 comes first.
Ezra
Yeah,
7:9
Yeah,
comes
Ezra
first.
7:9 to 419 to 9/11.
Okay, so that's basically the logic of it. I don't now it's just piling on.
Last night we printed out the article that Brittany had suggested, or the chapter that Brittany had suggested that we read from Acts of the Apostles with Saul, and I'm still convinced that Saul adds to what we're talking about the triumphant church being the priest, and then the Levites, when they come in, it's like they instantaneously go through this process and are bound off. And I think if we studied Saul and put up his line, we would see that dynamic that you're emphasizing, that it's a remarkable rapidity that it takes place. That the Levites.
Is there any evidence that from August 15th, 1844 to October 22nd, 1844, that any of the people that came out of the fallen churches and stood with the Millerites in that 7-week period jumped ship before October 22nd, 1844? No, they came and joined.
But only 50 of them made it.
Yeah, and that's never been proved. That's a Pippinger Apocrypha that I picked up from Adventist tradition, but it's probably valid. But I mean, you can't
So who
really
is that?
argue that.
It's not a
But
perfect fulfillment.
yeah, but there's a nice statement. She says it over and over again, but the one that clicks for me, she says the first, second, third angels' messages will need to be repeated. Those that went forth under the messages of the testing messages of the first and second angels refused the third, the last testing message to be given to the world. So she's saying these people here in the Millerite history from August 15th to October 22nd, they went forth to meet the bridegroom. They were under the influence of the outpouring of the Holy Spirit and proclaiming the midnight cry message, but they failed the third test. Okay, so it isn't denying that when they came out of Babylon and joined the Millerites in this history that they were joined with them to the end of that period. Okay, that's what it's illustrating, is that the Levites come out and they stand with the priests, not vacillate back and forth about
But they
whether.
kind of vacillate right up to the end when most of them drop out.
I don't
they
think
do,
so.
right up to
I
the
don't
end.
think. See, now if you're seeing them vacillate, then you're missing the
No,
point.
they get in and they agree and they go forward, but at the end, most of them leave.
Someone have a computer, a Bible computer, look at Isaiah and type in pass through. I think it's in the 56, 57, 58. No more sinners shall pass through her forever, something along that line. And it's not a single verse. This is a theme. But that one is...
57 is 56 or 57.
What?
Oh, sorry, he asked what chapter, and I was telling him.
No, I don't know.
Yeah.
If I had my old Bible, I could run it down because I start in 56 and it goes somewhere else. Does anyone see pass through in Isaiah?
Isaiah 8:8, 8:21, 21:1, 23:10, 28:15, 28:18, 34:10.
All right, so it's probably not pass through.
Type in no more sinners.
No more sinners?
Isn't that what it is? No more sinners shall pass through her gates.
No, that doesn't come out.
Yeah, no sinners.
I always remember it.
Anyway, it is a theme, a truth in the Bible that when the church triumphant is put in place, there's no more sinners pass through her forever. Forever is part of it.
Yeah.
Someone got a type of forever in. How many times?
Is it spelt different? Because forever doesn't even come up in Isaiah. Unless I'm spelling forever wrong.
Forever is 2 words.
Oh yeah, that would
In the
probably do it.
Bible.
Forever.
Maybe it's not Isaiah. No, I think it's Isaiah.
I think it is too.
Okay, so anyway, I'll dig this out for us if it's at a later date, like when I get my other Bible.
To prove the point that they joined the message, but at the third test, most of them fell. The Levites. They joined the message, but most of them fail at the Sunday law test. Are the priests the ones that pretty much...
No. That isn't what I'm saying. You're missing what I'm saying.
Okay.
Okay. The Levites are going to have to go through the everlasting gospel, which is a 3-step testing process. Okay, in their first test, among other things, is they're required to take the message and eat it. Right? Is there an angel that comes down at the midnight cry?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
How can you prove that? Anyway, there's an angel that comes down. The Levites have to take the little book and eat it. That's their first test. What?
Visual.
The second test is going to be visual. What's their visual test?
Priests.
The priest. And what are the priests to them?
The inside.
Living testimony.
They're an ensign.
Living testimony.
Living testimony. Okay, this is their second test. And their third test, where we've been putting it, is down here incorrectly, saying that it takes place here. This is the binding off for the Levites. So this is the everlasting gospel for the Levites. When they come to this point, they're either lost or saved for eternity. Yes? Okay, in this history, there is a 3-step preparation and empowerment to proclaim the loud cry message here. Yes? Yes?
Not based on what you've
So,
been teaching this morning.
is that-
Okay?
Yeah, well, we don't have to review several months of class to
I thought we
Jim,
were
acknowledge a
Jim,
point
is
of reference.
That, is that the third mark that you've got there? So on the big, this is a big fractal. So that, oh no, it's not. It's midnight. Sorry. Oh, okay.
It's midnight cry now.
I thought we were removing those 1, 2, 3s at the end before.
Yeah, I'm trying to explain
Okay,
something
yes,
to
so
you
far.
that you're not getting.
Okay,
Okay, sorry, I was.
This is the everlasting gospel in the time of the Levites.
Right.
Okay, but the way we're using our point of reference for this, the everlasting gospel history of the priests. And with the priests, we see down at the end is a binding off period that evidently there is some event that is the line in the sand for the priests. Okay, I still argue, I still argue, and this will probably confuse things, that there's priests back here that have their character ready. They're ready for this. But this history is being specifically marked.
I was reading about what you mentioned. Priests. You mean Levites?
Now, I mean Levites, but you're not listening. I'm
mean
saying that
priests?
I said we use the history of the priests to illustrate this. We've been using that.
Sorry,
And with the priest, we're seeing a big emphasis that the binding off goes on here. But I argue that there are priests that have developed a character prepared for the seal of God even before then, okay?
Yeah.
That's a minor issue. It's not what I'm trying to say. What I'm trying to say is this is the Levites. This is the time period. Now we're dealing with the everlasting gospel. We're not dealing with these three. But the first Levite to respond is Saul. Okay? So Saul, he gets knocked off his horse when an angel comes down out of heaven and blinds him. Okay? He's face down in the ground. Fear God. Give him glory, for the hour of his judgment has come. He's right here, step number 1. And it's Saul, Saul. Okay, so he's right here. This is what Michael is saying. His visual test takes... Here's what I'm saying, is he has his
She says,
everlasting gospel right here. He's the first one. He goes through this experience. So when he gets to the third right here, he's bound. He's sealed. And now he is working hand in hand with the priests. I see your hand. The next person after Saul is Michael. Okay? Not this Michael. This Michael's the priest. It's progressive all the way through. The first Levite to receive the seal in this history does it down here. The last does it down here. It's a progressive. That's exactly how the Protestants came out of the churches from August 15th to October 22nd. They didn't all come right here. They came progressively. They joined.
Is that, Jeff? I'm just thinking of this because from 9/11 to the midnight cry, the priests are wrestling to understand this message, whereas the Levites, they're getting given this message in a package. It's packaged and given to them. They're not having to wrestle through and all those things. It's just there. They either accept it or reject it. Whereas the priests had to have this tarrying time because they're having to break down and dig out all these jewels. And it's a promise that once all that's been done, he brings them all to that point at the same time. Whereas for the Levites, they're just given it, and it's as they get it, they just instantaneously.
Well, they've been being plowed back
yeah,
here
they've been
too.
plowed there as well. Yeah.
Sister White says as soon as Saul saw the flash of light from Christ and was blinded, that he was the image of Christ was forever impressed upon his soul. It was from that moment forward. He was sealed. It was ever stamped
Right
on.
here.
Yeah, he had to be blinded.
Right here.
John 9. Yeah.
It happens for him immediately. The everlasting gospel is accomplished for this Levite Saul immediately right here, because I'm saying he's the first Levite to respond to the message. But there's others that are Levites until the very last one responds here. So what I'm saying is this history is the history of the everlasting gospel for the Levites, but it's going to be individual when they reach the third step of the everlasting gospel, and when they do, that is their personal binding off period.
Just clarification, when you were writing the number 3 right there, you were saying that we used to incorrectly put the number 3 right here. So
Yes.
confused me. So is that the incorrect position?
This is the incorrect. What we were doing up here, this is the priests. All right? What we were seeing this as twin histories, parallel histories. And we know the binding off for the priest is right here. Therefore, we were, based upon Revelation 9, expecting a binding off here. What changes this is the fractals, that this history has got to be seen here. And also that this history is the history of the church militant. And that is a church that has both wheat and tares in it. But a church that does not have any tares is the church triumphant. And the priests are appointed as God's representative upon earth right here. This is the church triumphant, the beginning of it, the priest. Therefore, the response to the prophetic message by the Levites is different than the priests, because the Levites are responding to a message that's coming from the church triumphant, and the priests are responding to a message that's coming to the church militant. Okay.
We're taking 9/11 to the Sunday law, recognizing it as a fractal from 9/11 to the midnight cry.
Recognizing that the fractal is 9/11 to the midnight cry. 9/11 to the Sunday law is the bigger picture.
Okay, so when you take that bigger picture and you move it down into the space that we're moving it into, where are you putting that, what we're recognizing on the bigger picture as midway or midnight, where are you putting that other than 1838?
This
when you draw
is
a line.
midnight
Yes, I recognize that.
for the priests.
But when you move that
This
whole
is
line,
midnight for the Levites.
when you just take the lines that we have up there and move them between 9/11 and the midnight cry, there needs to be 1, 2. There's 2 lines in the middle there. When you move it perfectly, and I'm just asking how we're. Yep, there'll be one right there.
You're dealing with 1838?
Is that the only mark?
Is that what you're dealing with?
Yeah.
Okay, 1838. You can put that in there.
Because that's the perfect bring down into the fractal, and where else are we?
What does 1838 include?
It includes the Israelites. When
10 days.
Yeah.
Before. Okay.
10
Doesn't it?
days.
August 1st?
Yep.
Josiah Litch fine
But why
tunes
are
his
you putting
prediction.
it there? Why wouldn't it be over by the 38?
We used to. That's what we struggled with. But then, upon several witnesses, we're realizing that and don't anyone interrupt me, because I know that this will turn on buttons for people, but I wanted to get this point. The midnight cry is Pentecost.
Okay.
Why?
Because in the fractal sense.
Okay, this
in
is
the
Pentecost.
priest. Yeah, I recognize that.
So this would be Pentecost.
50.
And what happened leading up to Pentecost? there were
40 days.
40 days that Christ was with the disciples, and then 10 days that they were in the upper room. So you've got this lining up with this. You've got an illustration of this upper room. That's what happens in the binding off. It includes pressing together of the like-minded individuals. You have in this history Smyrna, which has, in the history of Smyrna, how many persecutions were there?
3 days.
Pardon me? There were 10. 10 Roman persecutions in the history of Pergamus, or in the history of Smyrna. Which was the worst?
The last 10 years.
The last 10 years by Diocletian. Okay, so we know that in this history of the binding off, there's a persecution that's going to take place. Who's the persecution going to be accomplished by? Those that say they are Jews but are not, but are of the synagogue of Satan. Okay, so what is that? The persecution here of the priests, what is it?
Internal.
Pardon me?
I don't know what you're looking for, but it's internal.
It's internal. This is a persecution that comes from those people that are passed by at 9/11 that are still saying they're Jews, but they're not. They've been passed by. So you've got a persecution with the number 10. You have a pressing together in the upper room, and you have a settling into the truth here with the story of Josiah Litch. They knew it was true, but when they got that fine detail, they were settled into that message. Okay.
Why aren't we more specifically marking this 38? Because if we're perfectly bringing it down,
You
the
can't-
38 should have more.
Yeah.
Should have more witnesses to it,
Can
right?
It has 2 more.
Can I add something to that, Jeff? If you take that line underneath, you've got the midnight cry Sunday law. You take that off and draw the fractal. Like you know, you marked at midnight cry. Midnight is their the midnight cry is their midnight. So if you put the midnight cry, make the smaller fractal.
This one here? What?
Yeah, so that's 9/11, and then you come to where midnight is above, it's the midnight cry, and where the midnight cry is, it's the Sunday law.
Okay.
So you draw it underneath. You just draw a line underneath a new line. Put 9/11 in where it normally goes. Yeah. And where you have midnight above the little cross.
That's the
yeah.
midnight cry. One to the left.
That's the Sunday law now. Yeah, that's the Sunday law. And where you have the little cross.
No, to the
go
left.
back,
to the
go
left.
back.
Right
There's a
there, yeah.
Yeah, that's midnight. That's midnight cry, sorry. Right? And put another little line to the left. That's the 38 years.
We're not touching that little line very much, are we? The 38.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. That's what we're going to now. Because that 38 there is our binding off. And the 38 years is actually 40. Because it's 38 years from Kadesh, not from when they left Egypt.
I need to go back.
Okay, now there's 2 references in the scriptures to 38, and one of them is all the rebels are dead at the 38th year.
Yeah.
Okay, but that 38th year is the 40th year of the wilderness wandering. It's saying 38 years from the initial 2 years that began the 40 years. When I first saw it, I seen the number 38 and I realized, okay, this is a symbol of rising up, because in both the Old and New Testament, 38 is rising up. And it never even clicked on me, even though I knew it before, that the 38 doesn't begin at the beginning of the 40 years. I was thinking it ended 38 years into the 40 years and there were still 2 left, but that's not the case. The 38 years begins in year 2 of the 40 years, and the 38 years ends on the 40th.
But you see how it perfectly reflects now. Because in 1838, we understand that the Millerites began to be lifted up. But when you come into our time here, and you do it on the bigger line, it's the 30th year, it's at midnight, where we began to be lifted up. And that's when the healings take place, when the man on the mat is at this 38th year point, and he's healed right there, and he's told to rise up and walk. It's also marked by an angel coming down that troubles the waters. That's Islam being loosed. And it's right there, and it parallels that one above. So it's a nice representation.
Did you understand that? You have to look up 38.
Yeah, there's two of them. Deuteronomy 2,
Am I the only
John
one that's
5.
wondering about the 38 and how we're applying it when we bring it down? It's just me. Everybody else knows.
Deuteronomy 2 and what?
John 5.
John 5.
John 5:5, I think it is.
Are you the only one that is what?
Just,
No,
I haven't missed that many classes.
you haven't missed that many classes. I guarantee that a certain percentage of the people that are being silent here are just being silent because they're not understanding everything too, and they're trying to just take it in. It's not like you're
But this
the
is the
only
perfect,
one that needs to wear a
This
dunce
is the perfect
hat.
fractal when we bring it down. It's got to be brought down like this. If we're saying we're going to take from 9/11 to the midnight cry, and we're going to take from 9/11 to the Sunday law and bring it down perfectly in our time period, that's the way it has to look.
Perhaps.
No, for sure.
No, not for sure. Every line does not possess every waymark as every other line.
Yeah.
As long as there's two witnesses there.
It has to retain the same sequence of events, but it does not have to possess every waymark.
Okay, same sequence. So that is the right sequence right there. 9/11, 38, midnight cry, Sunday law. Or
Yeah.
9/11, little
Yeah.
jot, midnight cry, Sunday law.
Okay, so at the midnight cry, the midnight cry is the cross at one level, and Barabbas is contrasted with Christ at the cross. But before Barabbas is the man of sin, false Christ. Before the man of sin can be revealed at the midnight cry, there has to be a falling away first of Judas back here. Okay? So here, on the bigger picture, Judas is falling away here at the midnight cry.
Yeah, it's progressive. It's just
Okay.
going on.
Yes?
Okay.
Yes?
Yeah.
You follow that?
Yeah.
So in here, as Judas is going down, the true prophet's being lifted up. The strong delusions coming in on Judas. The latter rains coming upon those people that are being lifted up as an ensign. And Judas here goes into the hall and throws his 30 pieces of silver. Right here and right here.
Well, where's the other mark before Judas? What is that?
In the story of Judas,
And in the story, in the story of Judas, what's the 38?
what's the 38 in the story
That's
of
where
Judas?
Judas falls away. And
No,
he
that's
falls
not
away.
what he said.
No. Where Judas falls away,
Is it the midnight cry?
No,
it may be, but wait a second. Judas falls away after he hangs himself.
Okay.
He hangs himself and the branch breaks, he falls away, he splatters.
Yeah.
Before he falls away, at his third test right here, Mr. White talks about him covenanting 3 times with the Sanhedrin. And the last one is the Last Supper. Okay, and Judas rose up from the table and a demon took control of him. And he went out into darkness. So you got a period of time here that begins with Judas rising up. And you're seeing the contrast. Judas is going down while the true priests are being lifted up. You're seeing the strong delusion while the outpouring of the Holy Spirit's going on. And you're seeing Judas rise up from the Last Supper, becoming demon-possessed, right as those people typified by Josiah Litch are rising up to the attention of the world. So you have these internal contrasts.
But you've got 2 fractals there taking place in the same line, because when you go to the line above, Judas falls away at midnight, and he's hung. Well, that's what we used to mark the falling away. I get your logic there, but it's showing. Is midnight not the mark and the point where the foolish priests fall away, but midnight cries marking the point where the Levites fall away? Because we're marking from the midnight cry to the Sunday law a very rapid acceptance by Saul.
What is the falling away? This is your answer, and I agree with you, but what is the falling away? There's one word that we always use. It's progressive.
Yes, progressive.
From here on, there's a falling away all the way to here.
Yeah. But what I'm saying is that fractal's just showing the different steps. But those different steps are marking different groups of people. First it's the priests, then the Levites, then the Gentiles.
It's all over for the priests here, but now the foolish Levites are falling away instantaneously. Yeah. Right when Saul is the first Levite to join, Saul's counterpart has fallen away for eternity.
So
and it goes all the way
I
through.
think it backs up what you're saying, militant and triumphant, when we take it and write it out the way you did on that bottom line, because it leaves no binding off before the Sunday law if you write it correctly.
This is the binding off. Yeah, it doesn't. It doesn't.
It fixes the problem if we write it correctly. That's what I was ultimately going to say.
Yeah, and this church triumphant, it just continues on. Same process for the 11th hour workers standing with God's people as with the Levites.
And I think that the 38, I mean, we see the 38 now, but it doesn't seem like the Lord has opened up all the truth yet on the 38. I think it's probably going to start being found. If we would represent it the correct way on the bottom, there'll be more lines of truth that line up with the 38, right? Because it's relatively new. It's relatively new.
Only for me to understand in a larger picture down there, we marked in 38 as midnight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's midnight.
So, 38 is a symbol of Josiah Litch, right? But Josiah Litch is also a symbol of 1840. Okay, so this is like a point in a period of time. Okay, so the 1840s right here at the midnight cry in this scenario, right? Yeah. This is the prediction. This is where
it's at midnight.
Yes, August.
It's
up here, but down here it's at the midnight cry.
They're both.
On the bottom, it would be the glorious manifestation of the power of God would be between 1838 and the midnight cry. If you marked it out perfectly, that's the right way to do it.
No. This isn't the glorious manifestation of the power of God. This is the raising up.
When you're taking the fractal from 9/11 to the Sunday law and bringing it down into our history,
the top one, Brom, was midnight to midnight cry is 1840 to 1844.
I know that. I'm not looking at
the bottom one's midnight cry to the Sunday law.
No, the bottom one, if you take the fractal and bring it down correctly, the glorious manifestation of the power of God would go on from 1838 to the midnight. Bring it down.
I will. No problema. This 4 years here, this number 4, is 1449 to 1453, is it not? Yes. So it's also 1840 to 44. There's a distinction between 1838 and 1840. This is 1838. This is 1840. This is 1844. And the glorious manifestation of the power of God takes place from 1840 to 1844.
But when you join them together, it's a progressive swelling.
Yes, but if you just draw the lines under there.
These are the lines. So this line here.
That's the Sunday law. The midnight cry becomes the Sunday law, and you have to shift everything.
You just join them together, Broma. You're right what you're saying. If you 38 there is actually midnight.
Yes.
So it's correct, but it's showing a swelling. It's a smaller version of it.
Agree.
Right?
But you do see the lines line up.
Oh, you're saying because...
Yeah.
Yes, if you do it
she's right, but it's just showing a swelling. When you bring them, you have to merge them together to see what she's talking about.
But how could you merge them if you don't lay it out right the first time?
No, it is laid out right.
It's laid out right.
Okay. I'm a little struggling.
When is the glorious manifestation of the power of God?
It'll be during the binding off.
No, when is it? What, in Great Controversy 6:11, when is it?
1840 to 44.
1840 to 44. It's this history here. Okay, there's a lead into this history.
In that bottom one, you lose the 10 days, and I guess that's okay if you're merging them together. But
because there's a 10 in that 30 as well. There is. We put it there.
Well,
yeah. It's 10 homers from
10
No,
days
I'm not saying,
Abigail's husband is in a coma.
Yeah, it's not what I'm saying. I'm saying I know there's a 10 there. I'm saying.
What are you saying?
If you were to draw out everything how it happens, or the top line you have up there, but move everything one to the right. You know?
Yeah,
No,
but
I don't know.
These lines are just showing the parallels.
Yeah,
they're not
what
showing
I'm,
every.
yeah. What I'm saying
aspect.
is if you did the top one, you end up putting it's a little bit less confusing than what you're showing right here.
What is?
If you were to draw everything except on the top, except shift it to the right, so the Sunday law becomes. What would that become? That would become 1840. That'd be 1840. Yeah.
Here?
No, right to the. Everything gets shifted over one way mark to the right. Is what I'm saying on the big scale. Because we're going to look at it from the Sunday law. So the midnight cry becomes the Sunday law, which is 1840.
Why are we doing
You
that?
got that bigger line.
Why are we doing that? You're saying that this makes it clearer?
I'm saying because on the bottom line you don't have the 10 days. You have the
Yeah,
number.
but the 10 days isn't why we have that bottom line.
No, I know.
Why do we have the bottom line?
Bronwyn was talking about like the perfect, you know.
She's wanting to deal with 1838.
Yeah, and this is the way you see 18. This is the way you see the 38 years. Yeah.
And then there's 10 in here.
But I don't want to just
And
call
we
it
had
38.
lines in here
wanna
that I
call it that
erased.
mark. We recognize it right now as a 38, but there has to be more truth on that 38. So if
Perhaps.
no, for sure.
But the point is we're not dealing with the little details of the number 38. We're talking about why we understand the binding off to be from midnight to the midnight cry for the priest, and the binding off being from the midnight cry to the Sunday law for the Levites. In contrast to what we've been teaching, that the binding off for the Levites was actually a short period of time before the Sunday law.
So has anybody actually read anything about 10 days prior to October 22nd, 1844? Just found out something from Joseph Bates about the fact that during the 10 days to the October 22nd October, the sounding, it talked about the seven message caused simultaneous dispersation among the virgins. And he talks about it was discussed that made disappointment, grief, contempt, scorn, and evil surmising on the one hand, while others were boldly declaring that the message was just what we believed, although we were surprised at the effect it was producing. So he's pointing out that during the last 10 days before October 22nd, 1844, there was kind of like a big shaking.
A separation.
That's
Yeah.
marking the 10 trumpets.
You have the Feast of Trumpets right there.
But also, we know that from midnight cry to Sunday law is actually about 2 months, period. From August.
Yeah,
So I just think 2 years,
you got
10 days.
2 months. You're trying to turn the 2 months into 2 years?
Well, the number 2 and the number 10.
What
You guys are getting what were we doing with this class today?
trying to figure out the.
Just trying to bind off what we're understanding about the binding off, so we're all on the same page when we go into the prophecy school next week. That we're not.
The best way to do it
But-
then would be to draw it correctly.
Maybe it'd be the
underneath.
best way, but we got to admit going in that we're not looking for the little fine details of the number 38 and the 10 possible days before October 22nd, right? We're trying to deal with this binding off. So we have about 5 minutes. How do you suppose it's the best way to do it, Sister Bronwyn?
The right way.
Okay.
The right way is always the best way.
What is the right way?
Draw the original and then perfectly reflect it underneath.
It
With all the major waymarks.
doesn't always get perfectly reflected.
But just do the 4 major
Do you
waymarks.
understand
So
that?
why don't you
I
draw
agree.
it out?
He's doing a great
Why
Come
did
on,
you
show
say
us
draw
the
it
right way.
underneath it? What's drawn underneath?
We're draw from 9/11 to the Sunday law first, right?
Yeah.
And then between 9/11 and the midnight cry, draw the fractal we're representing with all its ticks.
But that's what was there. It's just the other way around. Maybe you didn't see that, but that's what was there already. I saw it.
So, we got it for you. What do you want next?
Under 9/11, I want 9/11. Right?
Yeah.
Start.
That's 9/11. Just a little bit over after 9/11, draw a little bit more, draw a little line.
For this.
Well, you can draw
You
one
need a-
underneath the midnight cry and put Sunday law. So those are our 2 main things. Then draw over from the Sunday law, draw our other main guy, which is the midnight cry. and then over away from the midnight cry a little bit, draw that other little line.
Draw midnight and then draw 1838.
On your main.
And that
That's exactly what was there
That
before.
proves that the church triumphant is not the church militant in structure. For me.
Yeah, because you know the church triumphs here and this line's up here, so this has got to be church triumphant up here.
So it's simple. If you draw it right, it proves
I
it.
never said it was hard.
I drew it slightly different, but it's the same thought that's conveyed. The point that I'm conveying there, I have a question mark between on the smaller line that I marked Levites. That's because that period is not the binding off, but it's illustrating something. But in the priest period, it's illustrating a prediction. Do you see that?
Okay, up here.
One line's for the priests.
All right. He's saying that in the history of the priests, that they have a prediction about this event in here. From here to here, the whole 9 yards. But do the Levites have a prediction?
Yeah, starts at
The Sunday
The-
law prediction.
starts at the midnight cry. They're predicting the Sunday law.
Sunday law.
Yeah.
It would start right before the midnight cry. You're drawing to.
Well, their
Well,
message
that's
is
binding
from,
off.
That is marking something different. They're getting the message at the midnight cry,
It's a
and they are giving it straight away. They're making the prediction.
The priests are
because-
already predicting the Sunday law. So it's not anything new.
Priests aren't predicting the Sunday law.
They're predicting midnight cry.
They're predicting the image of
Which
the beast,
is the Sunday law.
which begins with a Sunday law.
Which begins with
It's typifying
the
what's
perfect-
going to happen here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's identifying the image of the beast. Haman's first gallows goes up here.
The Levites are predicting.
That's
the end of the law.
repeated here.
Yeah.
The gallows of Haman's 10 sons. So they have a prediction, but the Levites, do they have a prediction?
They're giving a prediction, but they understand it. They're not giving a pre-prediction like.
No, the Levites are between the midnight cry and the Sunday law. They're not right there.
Yeah.
The Levites are here.
Yeah, so there is no little extra spacing, and there's not this. They're not even the same structure. Really.
No, but they give the prediction at the midnight cry.
The prediction of what?
Because they receive it, the priests are going to give them a message, right? The priests are given a message. They've already gave the prediction. The predictions come through. They're now the living testimony, and they're giving this message to the Levites, and they're understanding it. And from that understanding, they see the end of the world, and they start predicting it.
What are they predicting?
They're predicting the image of the beast being set up at the Sunday law. This Haman's marked by Haman's 10 sons.
Okay, what they're predicting, among other things, and I can give you thus saith the Lord's, is the Levites here, they're going to be predicting the Sunday law just like we're predicting the Sunday law. But they're identifying that the Seventh-day Adventist church structure is going to be swept away. That's Samuel. He's given a message that causes your ears to tingle. And in every reference to those ears tingling, it's about the destruction of the Seventh-day Adventist church. The issue here that's going on with the priests and the Levites in this history is as much the final warning for the Adventist church as it is the Sunday law. This is the message for Adventism, saying, hey, the Adventist church is shutting down right here. You either get on board with this movement or you're going to be spewed out of the mouth of the Lord. So it's not simply the Sunday law, it's the internal, the external.
It's still to do with Islam. They're still giving a prediction based upon Islam. Second war. God demonstrates the end from the beginning.
Yeah, Islam's going to be at these waymarks, and we're already understanding that. So it's part of this. It's part of the prediction. What I'm saying is, we are realizing now. I'll back up. That this message here at the midnight cry is typifying this message.
Yeah.
This message begins with the Sunday law in the United States. This message begins with the first Sunday law in the United States, and the first Sunday law in the United States does not fulfill Revelation 13:11. It marks the going up of the image of the beast. This message here by the first fruits, the 144,000, is identifying the setting up of church and state upon the whole world, the image of the beast. This has been typified here by the priest and the Levites mutually, beginning with the priest, identifying that church and state are coming together. The image of the beast is being set up here. Okay, Islam is going to strike here. It's already struck here. It's going to strike here. Islam is definitely part of the message. The Sunday law is definitely part of the message. The image of the beast is definitely part of the message. The marriage institution and the Sabbath institution is definitely part of the message. But when it comes to the Levites joining the priests here, what is going to, as much as anything else, the Sunday law is going to shake Adventism, but what's really going to shake Adventism is when they realize, based upon God's prophetic word, is that the Seventh-day Adventist church is spewed out of the mouth of the Lord at the Sunday law. This is an argument that is going to draw Adventism into the discussion. It's not simply the Sunday law. It's not simply Islam. It's not simply church and state coming together. But all I'm saying is we seem to miss that when Daniel's illustrating this history here, Gabriel has told him in verse 14, I have come to show you what shall befall thy people in the last days. Okay, it's about internal, and Samuel's, it's about the ark being captured by the Philistines right here. So there's at least 4 things on this prediction. But we're understanding these 4 things as priests right now. That's what we are. We're the ones that are going to be the ensign, the living testimony that presents this message to the world and to the Levites. The world's getting woke up here, and the Levites that are being influenced by the Holy Spirit are immediately going to come and take their stand with the Lord.
In the Bible, I looked up, the priests are the ones who are blowing the trumpet, and the priests are the ones who blow the trumpet, and the Levites are the singers, and together they made up the sanctuary service. I don't know what the singers mean yet, but the priest blowing the trumpet means that those are the watchmen, those are the ones who give the prediction about Islam. And Levites, I don't know yet with the singers, but
They're also
what
the
it means.
porters and just the singers, and they carry the holy things.
Yeah, that's another trick there. Yeah, I agree with you.
The priests are allowed to look upon the holy things, but the Levites are not.
They have kind of an experience.
How many classes come out of Babylon with Ezra?
How many classes?
5. There's priests,
Different groups, yeah.
Levites, and Nethinims.
Yeah.
But the Levites are divided into 3 parts. So the Levites are 3, and priests and Nethinims. What's the 3 parts for the Levites?
They're
Oh,
the
there was the-
singers,
porters, and
And the Levites.
oh,
Yeah.
there's porters.
Levites, porters, singers are broken up. Nethinims and priests. Priests here, the Levites in all their 3 phases, 1, 2, 3,
Nice.
and then the Nethinims. Why are the Nethinims the 11th hour workers? Because there's 220 of them. And the 220 is the restoration that comes in on October 22nd, 1844. It comes in at the Sunday law. 220 restoration. This is the restoring of the 2 sticks. The Nethinims are the 11th hour workers.
We're told there were 40 priests and there are 220 Nethinims, but we don't know how many Levites there were.
Anyway, is anyone that is going to be teaching something about the binding off this coming week teaching anything that is contradictory towards this? I mean, we're pretty much on the same page. We are acknowledging, I mean, Bronwyn's crying out, we need more about the 38. Amen. We need to know more about the 38. We need to know more about the distinction between the singers, the porters, and the Levites. All of it isn't clarified yet. But we're not in contradiction. Are we in contradiction, Brother Tyler, with what you intend to share on Daniel 10?
No.
Am I in contradiction with you?
it's perfect now. I'm happy.
Do you remember in Daniel 10, I think, maybe verse 7, where Daniel sees the Mara vision, and the men that were with him fled, and they did not see the vision.
Daniel 10.
I was left alone.
Verse 7, yeah. I've contended, once I started thinking about this, I think it's accurate, but I'm open for correction, that those men that fled, they could have seen the vision had they wanted to, and they prepared themselves like Daniel. They had the opportunity to participate in the Mara vision experience. So I'd even take it a step further, and this is definitely, I hope, sanctified speculation, is that they actually saw some of the Mara vision, but they didn't understand it. Okay, they were there when it was taking place. Okay, but the experience that here, let me say it this way, the experience that prepares the faithful priest for this Mara vision, these unfaithful priests saw these truths. They're going to be held accountable for it. Let's put it that way. Okay, so one of the truths that they had opportunity to see, that I think we probably all know, but we're probably not seeing the significance of it, is that over the past 6 months or a year, what's been going on hasn't been at any human direction. This has been the line of the tribe of Judah opening up things, and all you have to do is think back, man. It blows my mind when I think back. There was a point in time where we would be emphasizing, this is really something, this is really big stuff, and 2 weeks later we're not talking about it anymore because we've moved on to a different point. And this is part of the experience that the line of the tribe of Judah is presenting in this history to prepare us for this binding off period, and we should acknowledge that this is the hand of the Lord, and in so doing we should be becoming familiar with this experience. And this is my point. This experience is teaching us that when it comes to this message, as much as we would like to have it in perfect clarity right now, we know that it isn't, but we know that Christ is trying to bring it into perfect clarity. So the fact that I may say something a little bit different than Mark or Tyler on this particular subject that is still fluid, it's still being put together, I don't think we need to be threatened about it. What we need to be threatened about is if I get up on the pulpit and I say, I have understood recently that we need to start literally keeping the feast days, and you're teaching a blatant error and you're holding to it. Okay, that's a different presentation of error than teaching something that you're understanding that a couple of weeks later you realize was a little bit out of sequence, and then you immediately withdraw that position and move forward. It's a totally different ball of wax. I don't think we have to be that concerned about it.
Yeah, but this, as I understand it, when I study the Bible based upon this structure. So these are the guidelines that we should be working within it, and when it's
we have been.
Yeah, no, we have been, but now.
But we have been, but there's been struggles.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
this
my
makes
point.
it clearer now for.
Is it perfectly clear?
Probably not, but our parameters are clearer now than they were a couple of days ago.
Yes, I agree. It's coming into a focus now that's almost scary in terms of your human experience. So some of you know that we have a friend that was laid to rest here. Some of you may or may not know him, Court Hendricks. So you need to pray for his wife, Cheryl, Court Hendricks. You up in Eatonville, you met Cheryl. Cheryl was at the Northern California camp meeting with Dave and Kathy. They traveled down together. That's his wife. Court was a tent maker. So you want to pray to me?
Dear Father in heaven, thank you that we are able to come together and study your word. Thank you that you give us clarity on the points. Please be with us when we go now out and work. Please be with us this day, that our thoughts are kept upon you. Thank you for that. In Jesus' name, amen.